بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وهدى وتقا ورشادا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعوة لا تسمع. نعوذ بك اللهم من هؤلاء الأربعة. أما بعد، حياكم الله جميعا. نعم، فحياكم الله جميعا في الدرس 24 في شرح منهج السالكين وتوضيح الفقه في الدين المؤلف للشيخ عبد الرحمن بن ناصر السعدي المتوفى سنة 76 و300 وألف للهجرة، رحمه الله رحمة واسعة وأسكنه فسيح جناته. أما بعد، فسنبدأ إن شاء الله، سنشرع في شرح كتاب الزكاة. وكتاب الزكاة أو كتب الزكاة والصيام والحج كلها إن شاء الله قصيرة إلى مقارنة بكتاب الصلاة. The مسائل of كتاب الصلاة were a lot. Compared to that, كتاب الزكاة will be shorter than كتاب الصلاة and all of the كتاب الصيام والحج as well. نعم. الآن, before we start, there were a couple of Masaa'il that we discussed in our last lesson that was related to Salat. And I had asked Brother Owais to send them to me, and he did actually send them to me. The first mas'ala was that what is some of the ulama, it is noticed and observed that the khatib on the day of Jumu'ah, he tends to make the second khutbah shorter than the first. So is there any dalil for this from the sunnah? As far as I researched, I couldn't find any dalil that clearly states this as a sunnah of some sorts. However, the fuqaha, they did mention it, like for example from the Hanabila, متن دليل الطالب does mention that وَسُنَّ تَقْصِيرُ الْخُطْبَةِ وَالثَّانِيَةُ أَقْصَرُ. He says it is sunnah to keep the khutbah short. That is known. This is the something that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged. And he says وَالثَّانِيَةُ أَقْصَرُ, the second one should be shorter, even short. But doesn't mention a dalil for it here. Some of the ulama who have mentioned the dalil, they mentioned that the second khutbah is supposed to be shorter, and the dalil for this is the qiyas upon what? What will they make the qiyas on? What are the things in Sharia related to Salat in which the second is shorter than the first?
The amount of surah, like the surah duration, second rak'ah is shorter than the first rak'ah.
The length of the salat generally, the first rak'ah is longer than the second one. The second is shorter than the first one. Ahsan. طيب. Also, this mentioned qiyas on adhan, because the adhan is longer than the iqamah, of course. So they said always the second one is shorter than something that is second is shorter than the first. So they mentioned this. So Allahu A'lam, if there is any other dalil for it, if I happen to find it, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, I will mention it to you. Also here in Matn Akhsar al-Mukhtasarat, he mentions also the same mas'ala. Amongst the sunan of the khutbah, he mentions وَتَقْصِيرُهُمَا, to make both the khutbahs short, وَالثَّانِيَةُ أَكْثَرُ, and the second one should be even shorter. And he says, and the Sharih mentions قِيَاسًا عَلَى الصَّلَاةِ كَالْإِقَامَةِ مَعَ الْأَذَانِ. This is based on the qiyas, making qiyas on the salat, just like the salat, first rak'ah, the second rak'ah is shorter than the first. And he says also وَكَالْإِقَامَةِ مَعَ الْأَذَانِ, and also like the iqamah and the adhan. And then that's also mentioned here. So that's pretty much the dalil, which is the qiyas, making qiyas on the adhan and iqamah and the salat as well. Okay, now we come to the next mas'ala, which was the mas'ala of salat al-khawf. So there is ijma' of the ulama. Al-Wazir ibn Hubayra. Ibn Hubayra mentions the ijma' of the ulama that Salat al-Khawf does not have any effect on the number of rak'at of the salat. Does not have any effect on the number of rak'at of the salat. So he says, yani if the salat is being offered during the travel, then it will be 2 rak'ahs, for example, for the rubaiyah. And if it is being offered yani, during time of rest, yani when you're in your city, for example, in your place of residence, then it will be 4 rak'ahs. So here, yani, it will be divided into 2 and 2 sets of 2 rak'ahs. So for example, in the sunnah or the sifa of the Salat al-Khawf that we learned, we had the Prophet ﷺ praying 1 rak'ah. One of the sifat was that he offered 1 rak'ah with 1 jama'ah, and that jama'ah completed its salat. And then the Prophet ﷺ led the other jama'ah in its second rak'ah. Then he sat and waited for them to complete the rest of the rak'ahs, and then he performed the taslim. So, in this case, in the case of 4 rak'at, the Imam will perform 2 rak'ats with or rak'atain, 2 rak'ats with 1 group, and then he would perform the next 2 rak'ats with the next group. And in case of Maghrib, you will have the Imam performing 2 rak'ats with 1 group and 1 rak'ah with the other group. So this is related to Salat al-Khawf. طيب نبدأ الآن درس اليوم. بسم الله. يقول المصنف رحمه الله كتاب الزكاة. طيب السؤال الأول الذي عندي لكم وهو الزكاة. What is zakat? يعني linguistically, what does it refer to? And how is it related to the Shari'i zakat?
Sheikh, is it the meaning zakat meaning is like purity? It is like
purity. The one of the meanings is purity. Naam. The other one.
Meaning another meaning is like like an increase, barakah, increase something.
Increase. The other meaning is increase. Ahsan. So one is purity and the other one is increase. So how can you relate these 2 meanings with the Shari'i zakat, which is to give the charity that is wajib upon you? How can you relate increase first of all, and then also the purification of purity?
Increase is like from the perspective of akhirah, that a person will be rewarded in akhirah, or is it like in dunya also he'll receive the barakah on that mal which he's giving?
Okay, and his mal will increase because he is giving out charity, ahsan. And because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is generic, it says, مَا نَقَصَتْ صَدَقَةٌ مِّن مَالٍ. Never has sadaqah reduced or decreased the wealth. That is generic for all kinds of sadaqah. That will go for zakat as well. It will only increase your wealth. And purification.
Purification, is it like because a person earns like haram mal or doubtful like wealth also gets mixed with in one's earning. So like if one gives zakah, so that haram earning will be like purified through this zakah.
Ahsant. It will purify his wealth, and it will purify his soul as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا. صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ and تُزَكِّيهِمْ. So it mentions it will purify them. And this sadaqah, or the Prophet ﷺ will purify them through this sadaqah. So it's a purification of the soul as well as the purification of the wealth. أحسنت بارك الله فيك. طيب قال وهي واجبة على. Now these are the shurut of the wujub. Who is it wajib on? كل مسلم حر ملك نصابا. It's wajib upon kulli Muslim, upon every Muslim, and it doesn't mention bulugh. Hurrin, he must be free and not someone's, for example, slave. owned by someone. Malaka nisaban, who owns the nisab, and nisab is the amount upon which the zakat becomes wajib. We'll discuss it. The question here is, why doesn't it mention al-aql or al-bulugh? Didn't we notice that this is usually one of the shurut of wuju for hajj, for salat, for siyam, that one should be aqil, and he shouldn't be someone who is majnoon, and he should be baligh, shouldn't be someone who is not yet reached puberty, not yet reached maturity.
Sheikh, is it because if that person is not aqil, is majnoon, or if that person is a child, so usually there is some guardian. There is a guardian over that person, like some relative or some. So, and moreover, that it is from the rights of the makhluk, and salah, etc. That is from the rights of salah, and Saum is the haq of, how do I phrase it? Like from the rights of Allah, and this is rights of the ibad, the slaves. So
Ahsant, mumtaz,
is it like
so it's because, firstly, as long as there is a mal owned by a Muslim, then his guardian is obliged, and he is the one upon whom it is mandatory to give out zakat from it. So the zakat is wajib on the mal, and it is from the haq that is related to the mal itself. It's haq related, it's a right related to the wealth itself and not to the person. So, for example, as long as there is a mal that belongs to someone, of course, not a waqf, not something that is sadaqah, not something that is an endowment generally, but if as long as it belongs to a Muslim, the zakat must be given out from that mal. So whether this person is majnun, then his guardian. If he's saghir, if he hasn't yet reached maturity, then his guardian, his father, his whoever it is, the guardian of a yatim, they will take out the zakat. Okay, what about hur? When it says hur, why not slave? Why not abd?
Because the abd has no mal of his own. He has whatever he owns is
Ahsant. Because he doesn't have any mal of his own, and whatever he has belongs to his master. طيب. Then he says malaka nisaban. So what is nisab?
This is the minimum amount that is required. Like when the amount is this much, then zakat will be obligatory. The minimum or the prescribed amount.
Okay, and once the amount reaches or whatever is the type of wealth upon which there is zakat, and if it reaches this particular amount, if it reaches this particular quantity, then the zakat will be mandatory. If it is less than this minimum quantity or minimum amount, then the zakat would not be mandatory. Okay, with regards to the second shart, which is hur, there is a mas'ala, and that mas'ala is related to someone who is a slave, a type of slave which is called mukatab. Do you know what a mukatab is?
Yes, mukatab is like that the slave has made an agreement with his master, like that he will pay so and so amount and will release himself from that, like in
okay. Now let's say he starts okay, he's agreed with his master, for example, that he will earn and pay him, for example, 2,000 riyals to set himself free. So the master agrees that it's okay if you if you are willing to pay this amount, then I will set you free. So this is called mukatab. Okay. Now here, if the mukatab, for example, agrees to an amount that is more than the nisab, مثلا, if he agrees to, let's say, 20,000 riyals, let's say. Okay, now 20,000 riyals is more than the nisab, according to the other qawl as well, which is يعني we have two aqwal that the nisab of the cash is supposed to be يعني considered in the light of the price of in the light of the nisab of gold. The other one says whichever is more beneficial for the fuqara, which means يعني it will be considered in the يعني as the nisab of the silver, because nisab of silver will be very few riyals, 1500, 1800. This masala inshallah we'll discuss in detail. So, and on the other hand, if you يعني calculate and the nisab based on the nisab of gold, then it will be يعني quite a lot. يعني it would be 85 grams into, you can say these days, I think gold, maybe it's 220 riyals, 230 riyals around this. So for example, if you multiply with 85 grams, that would be something around 18,000 riyals. So there's a huge difference. So let's say, just to avoid this difference, let's say the agreement was made for 20,000 riyals. So is there any zakat on this mukatab? Because he is earning money to pay. Will there be any zakat on him? الصحيح والله أعلم that there is no zakat on him. Ibn Qudama rahimahullah mentions المكاتب لا زكاة عليه بلا خلاف نعلمه. In Mughni, Ibn Qudama mentions that the mukatab, there is no zakat upon him, and there is no khilaf with regards to this mas'ala that we know of. So يعني معنى ذلك أنه لا زكاة على المكاتب. Even if he's saving more than the nisab, of course, to pay what he agreed upon, then there is no zakat upon him. والله أعلم. طيب. ثم قال ولا زكاة في مال حتى لحظة. طيب. قال ولا زكاة في مال حتى يحول عليه الحول إلا الخارج من الأرض وما كان تابعا للأصل كنماء النصاب وربح التجارة فإن حولهما حول أصلهما. Beautiful. It says the zakat becomes wajib upon any type of wealth, and the types of wealth upon which zakat is wajib will be discussed in the next mas'ala. So we will inshallah come to that. But he says generally one of the shurut of the wujub of zakat is that is hawalanul hawl hatta yahul alayhi al-hawl, that one whole year passes after the nisab has been reached. Once the nisab has been reached, one whole year passes on that nisab. Then the zakat will be wajib. So for example, if we say that the nisab of, let's say, gold is 85 grams, then you should have these 85 grams for a whole year. If, for example, you had less than the nisab for some part of the year, let us say, you had 50 grams at some part of the year, the time will restart from where you reach 85 grams again. Okay. Illa, he says, except the shart of hawalanul hawl. Hawalanul hawl means the passing of a year. The shart of passing of a year is not applied to two things. He says, illa al-kharij min al-ard. What is kharij min al-ard referring to?
This is referring to the crops.
The crops, ahsant. The agricultural produce, the crops, ahsant. So generally, so when are you supposed to, when is the zakat wajib for al-kharij min al-ard? The crops, the agricultural produce generally.
That is during the harvest, during the time of harvest, like
at the time of harvest. ahsant. وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ, and give its due right the day of its harvest. So the day you harvested, the very day you get the possession of this of the crops, and when they are ready, when they're cut and they are ready to be, for example, consumed or sold, whatever, that is the very time that you are supposed to يعني pay zakat for it, and not after the passing of a year, not after the passing of a year. طيب. قال وما كان okay, imagine if it was after the passing of a year, would there be any zakats on al-kharij min al-ard? There would be very little zakat, because usually the crops, the agriculture produce, usually it's consumed within the year, right? You either sell it off or you yani, consume it yourself, etc. Yani very few things would be stored for more than a year. Sahih, right? No one prefers, right? There wouldn't be any zakat then if you would be keeping it for a whole year. Yes, maybe you can say on the money that you earn from it, but generally very few things. And within a year, the crops are generally consumed, because by the next year you have a new harvest. So that is why this in this case it is the zakat is mandatory on the day of the harvest. Okay. Then it says number 2, ما كان تابعا للأصل. ما كان تابعا للأصل. Something that is you can say let me give you an example. تابع للأصل, something that follows it in its ruling. It's secondary. It's not the primary wealth. It's secondary. Now, the example of which is, he says, كنماء النصاب. نماء النصاب means, for example, you had 4 camels, okay? And then one of the camels gave birth to another. So you had now 5. But this happened in the 7th month of the nisab, for example. Or let's say you had 5 camels, and then the 5th camel, for example, it gave birth to the 6th one. So here, your wealth will be, when will we start counting the nama nisab? Will we start counting the number 6 from from the month number 7, or will we start its timer from the timer of the asl? Let me give you a better example than this. A better example than this would be, for example, something that I want a clear example. It's clear. Number of camels, مثلا. Okay, let's say, for example, you had 120 goats, okay, and by the in the month 8, in the month number 8, there was an addition of 10 more goats, and now you had 130. طيب. So if there was 130 goats now, so will you be giving the zakat of one مثلا في كل 40 شاة. طيب, in every 20 there are, for example, in every 40 you're supposed to give 1 goat. So here, if you had 120 and then in the middle of the year they became 130, so how much will you be giving here?
We have to give like 1 more extra. 2 goats.
نعم, أحسنت. So we'll be giving 2 goats. أحسنت, بارك الله فيك. طيب, إذن هو هكذا. So here you wouldn't be starting the timer for the other 10 Shia, for the other 10 goats. You wouldn't be restarting the timer for them. They will follow the rest of the 120 in their with regards to their time, right? So this is the meaning of nama'un nisab. Once the nisab has been reached, then whatever is added to the nisab, then it will be its time is the same as that of the asl, that of the nisab. So here, in this case, we will be having how many? We'll be having 2 goats. No, ahsant. طيب الآن ثم قال وربح التجارة. Now can you give an example of ربح التجارة? How this will apply to it? Any through an example, can you explain?
Like, is it like if, if someone possesses like one like he has some amount for maybe 50,000, suppose if he has an amount 10,000 suppose, and then that amount like a profit. He had 10,000 at the start of the year, and then that amount in between, maybe 5th month or 6th month, it generated some profit. That come from 10 to 15. So at the end of the year, we will have to pay zakat on 15,000, not on the 10,000.
At the end,
like this.
No, la. See, come again. 50,000 was the investment, okay, that he made. For example, he has bought goods. Like, so let's say he has a mobile phone shop and he buys iPhones worth 50,000 riyals. Okay, this was in let's say in Muharram. In Muharram at the beginning of the year. By the let's say by Ramadan, he sells off these iPhones for 60,000 riyals, which means he will get a profit of how much?
10,000.
10,000. طيب. Now, in the next Muharram, will he be paying zakat for 50,000 or will he be paying the zakat for 60,000? That's the question.
60,000.
Ahsan. He'll be paying the zakat for 60,000. Why? You wouldn't be restarting the timer for the extra 10,000. You wouldn't say, oh, the extra 10,000, I got them in the month 9, that is Ramadan. So I will pay the zakat for these 10,000 next Ramadan. No. This time, the timer of this 10,000 will be it will start from the or it will be the same as that for the 50,000. طيب. لحظة. Okay, what is the dalil for this, that the nama'un nisab, there is you wouldn't be calculating the haul for it? The dalil for this is that the Prophet ﷺ would send the zakat agents, and they wouldn't ask which are the which ones upon are the ones upon which 1 year has passed or no. They would just count the number and then they would ask for the zakat upon it. So for example, again, the example that we gave before, so just like the example we gave before of, for example, 120. So if there is 120 Shia or 120 goats, and there would be the zakat that would be required for it is 1 goat, right? For 121, you will be requiring 2. So if within the year these produce 10 more goats, for example, and then the number becomes 130, then this will this wouldn't mean that he has to pay only, or he has to give only 1 goat in zakat. Rather, he'll have to give 2 goats based on the new number, which is 130. Based on the new number, which is 130. طيب, واضح? This is clear, inshallah, these masail. الحمد لله. طيب, قال فإن حولهما حول أصلهما. The حول, the year, the starting of the time for them is the same as their أصل, the primary wealth. Now, طيب, ثم قال ولا تجب الزكاة إلا في 4 أنواع. Zakat is wajib in 4 types of wealth. The first one, it says as-Sā'imatu min bahimat al-an'am. What is the meaning of as-Sā'ima min bahimat al-an'am? The one that grazes by itself. the one that grazes by itself, number one, yani it's not supposed to be fed يعني the يعني يعني the hay and any kind of food is not supposed to be fed, and also it grazes on natural pastures, not that have been that are naturally grown, not something that man has grown. So for example, if the man has grown, for example, grass on a particular land, and he's the one who looks after it, so in this case, this wouldn't be considered sa'ima. This wouldn't be considered sa'ima because he is working on growing that grass. You understand? So the sa'ima is when it grazes on natural lands and naturally grown pastures. This is the one that is considered sa'ima, and it should do so the whole year or most of the year. How will we judge whether it's sa'ima or no?
It's like that is like is the like their fitra is like that, so they do this like.
Come again?
They're like they do this whole like all the year round,
all the year around, but sometimes because it's something natural, that there would be times in the year that they wouldn't be doing this, or it wouldn't be accessible to them. So how will we judge? If they do so most of the year, they graze on natural pastures, that is mubah, of course, then then they will be considered sa'ima. If they do it for example 5 months or 4 months of the year, and the rest of the 8 months the shepherd or the owner of this livestock has to feed them, then this will be then in this case they wouldn't be considered sa'ima. They wouldn't be considered sa'ima. So sa'ima is the grazing livestock that grazes on naturally grown pastures most of the year. That should be more than 6 months. طيب. قال والخارج من الأرض بمشي. نعم تفضل.
What is the frail of that sa'ima? The verb is sama.
يسوم.
Oh, okay.
طيب. ثم قال والخارج من الأرض, we mentioned خارج من الأرض, it refers to the agricultural produce and the crops generally. Does it include all kinds of fruits or particular kinds only?
This is like the thing that can be stored for long time.
أحسنت. المدخر, something that can be stored for a long time. And there's some of them they mention al-makil wal-muddakhar, something that was measured in the units of volume at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and it would be stored for a longer time. So things like, for example, apple, bananas, etc., they are not they're not liable for zakat. طيب. This inshallah, this masala we will discuss in detail. Number 3, it says al-athman. What is al-athman referring to?
This is the like the saman, the price, like the currency.
أحسنت. ثمن, and it's referring to the gold and silver generally, and whatever takes its ruling or whatever is a substitute for gold and silver. So in the currency, for example, in the time of the Prophet was gold and silver. Right now we have the fiat currency, that is the notes that we use, currency notes, and these will take the same ruling as gold and silver in our time. So Athman will be inclusive of gold, silver, and whatever serves its purpose. Then it says urud al-tijara. What is urud al-tijara?
That is the like business like items which is that will be used for selling, the items to be sold.
Ahsant, the items to be sold or to be sold for earning a profit. There's a difference. يعني the عروض التجارة are those items that you sell to earn a profit. To earn a profit. This is the niyyah of selling it is for to earn a profit. This is for tijara. So, for example, if you had a car which you used to, which was for your own use, or for example, you have a land and you just want to, get rid of it now, or you want to sell it, you need cash, and you have put it on for sale for a year now. This would not be liable for zakat. This would not be liable for zakat. Why? Because you're not selling it for the purpose of earning a profit. Understand? This is to just get rid of it. So not everything that you sell is urud al-tijara, rather something that you sell to gain a profit. And inshallah, this masala also we'll discuss when the urud al-tijara, the masala related to it come. طيب. قال الشيخ رحمه الله زكاة السائمة. طيب. As you mentioned before, سائمة is the اسم الفاعل from سام يسوم. And سام يسوم means in Arabic رعى يرعى, to graze the to graze and feed on the pastures. This is sama yasum. Generally, sama yasum means the asl of this bab, it means to seek something, طلب الشيء. And because the livestock, when it grazes, it's seeking food for itself, so it's called sama yasum. سامت الغنم أو سامت مثلا حتى even the horses are called al-khayl al-musawwama. Al-khayl al-musawwama, those that are fed and grazed, made to graze. Now, قال الآن فأما السائمة فالأصل فيها. So now here we have to again mention that the murad بالسائمة, that what it is referring to, سائمة الراعية, is the one that grazes the vegetation for most part of the year. Please write this down, for most part of the year. And fine. And it is important to note that it shouldn't be a vegetation that was grown by man, by someone, to feed for the livestock to feed on. Rather, it should be something that is naturally grown. So if someone has, for example, grown vegetation for his livestock, for his cattle to feed on, then this wouldn't be considered sa'ima. This wouldn't be considered sa'ima. Fine. And this should be for most part of the year, more than 6 months. So if it is, for example, 5 months and the rest of the 7 months, the shepherd or the owner of these livestock has to feed them, then in this case they wouldn't be considered saima. فالأصل فيها
missed the point, I didn't understand the part that they are grazing for I didn't miss that point. They are grazing for
most part of the year.
No, the point you mentioned they are fed for themselves, or what the point you made?
What is okay? Saima refers to those that graze for most part of the year on naturally grown vegetation. What does this mean? For example, they have access to, for example, a pasture, field, on which vegetation is naturally grown, and it's not owned by anyone, and they feed on it. This is sa'ima. Okay, but on the other hand, if you have to feed it by yourself, for example, you buy the hay and you have to feed, for example, the cattle yourself. So you buy the hay for it. Or on the other hand, for example, you are someone who has a piece of land and you grow, for example, you water that land to have vegetation grow on it so that your cattle can feed on it. This will not be considered as sa'ima. Do you understand now?
Yes, Sheikh.
بارك الله فيك. طيب قال فأما السائمة فالأصل فيها حديث أنس. حديث أنس الأصل means here the main dalil, the most important dalil, the most important piece of evidence that is used for this bab is the hadith of Anas radiallahu an, أن أبا بكر كتب له, and that Abu Bakr radiallahu an wrote to him, and he mentioned the nisab and the all of the ahkam of zakat of the sa'ima and other ahkam as well. He says هذه فريضة الصدقة التي فرضها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على المسلمين. طيب, this is the faridah, or this is the obligation of sadaqah, of zakat, that the Prophet has made mandatory upon the Muslims. والتي أمر الله بها رسوله, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded his messenger with. قال في 24 من الإبل فما دونها من الغنم في كل 5 شاة. في 24 من الإبل, يعني in 24 فما دونها من الغنم في كل 5 شاة. طيب هنا لماذا قال فما دونها من الغنم؟ دونها من الغنم. طيب هذا يحتاج إلى نظر. فما دونها من الغنم, this particular sentence. لحظة. قال this particular wording فما دونها من الغنم, because غنم is it refers to the goats and sheep, so not sure what exactly this is. فما دونها من الغنم, why does it say من الغنم؟ على كل حال في 24 من الإبل, in 24 camels or less than 24, في كل 5 شاة, for each 5 camels you are supposed to give out 1 goat or 1 sheep. 1 goat or 1 sheep for each, and for 5 camels 1 goat, 1 sheep, 1 goat or sheep. For 10 camels 2, for 15 camels 3, for 24. طيب, once it reaches 25, then we will come to it. But if there is less than 5 camels, if someone has 4 camels, then what will be the case? Will he have to give a goat or no?
No. Minimum is 5 camels.
5. Okay, mumtaz. If he had 4 in Muharram, and in Ramadan, the camels produced. They became 6. He had 4 in Muharram. In Ramadan, they became 6. So will he have to pay offer 1 goat or 1 sheep as zakat in Muharram?
Yes, that is tabi'an lil asli. Yes.
Lakin, what did the Musannif say? He said nama'un nisab, the increase in the nisab. These 4 were not nisab. You understand? These 4 were not nisab. So the nisab starts when he had 6 in Ramadan. So that is when the nisab was reached. Now the timer will start. You understand? On the other hand, for example, if he had 7 in Muharram and in Ramadan he had 10. So in Muharram, how much zakat will he have to give? 1 goat or 2 goats?
This will be 2 goat because he had reached the nisab.
أيوة نعم. تابع للأصل إذا ولغ النصاب. It will be, it will take the same ruling as the asl if the nisab has been reached. If the nisab hasn't been reached, then the timer wouldn't start in the first place. The hawl wouldn't start in the first place. You understand? So if he had 4 in Muharram and 6 in Ramadan, then the time of the nisab, the hawl itself will start from Ramadan. So in Muharram, he wouldn't have to pay, wouldn't have to give anything. But next Ramadan, he will have to give 1 goat for these 6 camels that he had. On the other hand, if he had 7 in Muharram and 10 in Ramadan, let's say, then in the next Muharram, he will be paying or he will be giving or offering 2 goats as zakat. أحسنتم. طيب. ثم قال فإذا بلغت 25 إلى 35 25 to 35 25 to 35. You can write this as in numbers in these ranges. 25 to 35 ففيها بنت مخاض أنثى بنت مخاض أنثى فإن لم تكن فابن لبون ذكر. طيب, what is the meaning of بنت مخاض? How old is بنت مخاض first of all?
It is like 1 year. 1 year.
1 year old. And why is it called بنت مخاض?
Makhad, Sheikh, is it like referring to like Bintu Makhad is the daughter of Makhad. Makhad is referring to like the pregnant.
أحسنت. The Makhad is it's because its mother is Makhid. What's the meaning of Makhid? Makhid means حامل. Makhid يعني حامل. So when a 1 year old camel, usually the mother of this 1 year old camel is made pregnant again. Usually when the camel turns 1 year old, the mother she is pregnant again. So it's usually because she's pregnant at this time when the camel is 1 year old, it's called بنت مخاض. طيب. If there is no بنت مخاض, قال فإن لم تكن, then فابن لبون ذكر. Then a male camel, but Ibn Labun. What is Ibn Labun? Or how old is Ibn Labun?
Labun is this like plural of Laban?
لا ليس كذلك. Labun is not the plural.
Labun like some like is the mother then is giving milk?
Yes, yes. Labun يعني the one that has laban. Not the plural of laban. It's something that has laban. Labun like fa'ul, like shakur, ghafur. Labun يعني that's something that gives laban. That produces laban. And how old is the camel that is referred to as Ibn Labun or Bintu Labun?
That is 2 years.
2 years. طيب. Why is it called Bintu Labun? Because or Ibn Labun when it's 2 years, because for the first year the mother was pregnant. The second year she is producing milk. After delivering or giving birth to the camel or that she was pregnant with. So now it's producing milk. So it's called Bintu Labun in the second year. طيب. طيب. Okay. Now let's move on to the next one. So ثم قال so if they don't find Bintu Makhad Untha, then they will be giving the Zakar, which is 2 year old. طيب, why when it comes to the Zakar, it's 2 year old that will be given in Sadaqah, not the 1 year old? Why is the 1 year old she camel acceptable, but when it comes to Zakar, it should be a 2 year old?
Sheikh, I'm not sure. Like that 2 year male camel is more like has more value than the 2 year has definitely has more value than 1 year.
But she camel, why do we accept 1 year old and she camels?
Sheikh is does it, it has to do with like something like she can she become
And
pregnant
generally,
at,
it's
I'm not sure.
more beneficial. The she camel is always more beneficial. And the male for the whole herd, you only need one male, and that's also not any necessary for the whole herd. You can, for example, borrow the male for breeding, from someone else as well. If you might have heard of the hadith, إعارة الفحل. إعارة الفحل, when you have to lend your male camel to someone, it should be for free. You shouldn't take money for lending your male camel to someone. So for the whole herd, one male is enough. But she camels is the thing that is more beneficial. She produces milk, she gives birth to more children and more camels, for example. So the increase in the herd will be through the she camel. So she camel is always more valuable than the male. As for the male, they keep him on a side. Only when it's required for breeding, they bring him in. And one camel, two camels is enough for the whole. So they always the she camel is something that one is more interested in because of its benefit, financial benefit. ثم قال فإذا بلغت 36 إلى 45, if it reaches 36 until 45, ففيها بنت لبون أنثى. And بنت لبون, you mentioned that it is the one that is 2 years old. It's called so because the mother that was pregnant in the previous year when it was 1 year old, now because it has given birth, is producing milk. At the time this camel is 2 years old, the mother of this camel is producing milk. It's called بنت لبون. قال فإذا بلغت 46 إلى 60. Now from 46 to 60, قال ففيها حقة طروقة الجمل. حقة طروقة الجمل. حقة means something that now deserves. استحقت. استحق, and it's مستحق of what? It's مستحق of being subject to the you can say the breeding process from the jamal. And taruqatul jamal, taruqa here, taraqa al jamal is when the male camel sort of you can say طيب كيف نقول بالانجليزي الان طرق الجمل الناقة is when the male camel is it subjects the she camel to the breeding process. And حقة طروقة here فعول بمعنى مفعول, مطروقة الجمل, something that is subject to this process by the jamal, by the male camel. So طروقة here فعولة بمعنى مفعول, مفعولة الجمل. It's called حقة لأنها استحقت, now because it's time for it to be subject to this process, لأنها استحقت أن يطرقها الفحل وأن يحمل عليها وتركب. Also, it is now because it is 3 years old, so it's also deserving, or it is now eligible to ride on. You can ride on it. You can put your stuff on it. So that's why it's called حقة. That's why it's called حقة. نعم. طيب ثم قال فإذا بلغت 61 from 61 to 75 ففيها جذعة. And جذعة is the one that is 3 years old. The one that is 4 years old. The one that is 4 years old. That's the 3-year-old one is the حقة. حقة is 3 years old and جذعة is the 4-year-old one. And why is the جذعة called جذعة? What is the meaning of جذع يجذع? الحمد لله. نعم. جذع is called جذع because when it's you can say when its tooth falls, it starts to how do you call it? Subhanallah. Let me look for the word in English. SubhanAllah, I'm unable to find a translation for it in English. SubhanAllah. طيب, it's generally related to لحظة. طيب أنا إن شاء الله سأنظر في هذا I will get back to you on this. Why is it called جذعة? It's related to something because when a tooth falls, it produces this أحتاج للنظر. طيب, anyways, ثم قال فإذا بلغ 76 إلى 90 from 71 to 90 ففيها بنتا لبون, يعني 2-year-old she camels. فإذا بلغت 91 إلى 20 و100 91 to 120 حقتان طروقة الفحل 2-3-year-olds she camels. فإذا زادت على 20 و100 ففي كل 40 بنت لبون. If it's more than 120, then in each, with every 40 you will have bintu labun, and in every 50 there's a hiqqah. ومن لم يكن معه إلا 4 من الإبل فليس فيها صدقة إلا أن يشاء ربها, except if the owner wants to give some kind of a sadaqah. Right. So for example, if someone has 150 camels, what will he be giving out? And this is the second last of the bullet points. If he has 150, what will he be giving out? How many camels and what will their ages be?
Sheikh, that is two hiqqah he will give case of 150.
152 or 3 hiqqah? وفي كل 50 حقة. 2 or 3? يا أخي في كل 50 حقة, so it will be 3. صح ولا مو صح؟ correct يا أخي؟ نعم, في كل 50 حقة. طيب, if it reaches, for example, let us say 170, what will he be giving out?
That will be like 3 plus one bint labun.
Or will it be 3 bint labun with 1 hiqqah? 40, 40, 40, 120, then 1 hiqqah
okay,
for 50.
Okay, 125 it was already 3, and then plus for every 50 that will be 1 hiqqah. So yeah. 3 plus 1, that is 4, and then 1 bint labun.
كيف ما أعرف مرة ثانية, يعني explain it to me again. لا, I'm saying, see, it says if it is more than 120, then for each 40 there is bint labun, and for each 50 there is hiqqah. So if someone has 170 camels, so you have to, in order to evaluate how much or what kind of a camel he has to give, you have to divide it into groups of 40 or groups of 50. So here we can have, for 40, 40, 40, 120, you can have 3 bint banat labun and 1 hiqqah to cover the 50. So if someone has 170, then there are 3 banat labun and 1 hiqqah. Is this clear to you? Naam? Is this clear?
No, I think I lost somewhere.
Yeah, I think if you're going through the translation, I think there is a mistake here. It says if the number exceeds 125. That's not what the matan says. The matan says فَإِذَا زَادَتْ عَلَى 20 وَمِئَةٍ. If it is more than 120, not 125. So then I think this is a problem in the translation. What are you following, the translation, or are you following the Arabic matan?
Yes, Sheikh, my eyes were on the translation right now.
That's why there was this confusion. Anyways, what he means to say is that after 120, they didn't specify the type of ibil, type of naqa that you're supposed to give in sadaqah. Rather, they said, if it is in multiples of 40, then take out, for example, bint labun. If it is in multiples of 50, hiqqa. If it's mixed, for example, 170, then you can, for multiples of 40 until 120, for example, this means 3 bint banat labun, and one hiqqa to make it to 170. You understand?
Sheikh, like if it is like say suppose like 210.
210. Okay, 210. You tell me, how will it be do it? Multiples of 40 and multiple of 50. You want to reach 210. What's the best way to do it? You take 160. This is 4 multiplied by 40, right? Multiples of 40 until 160, and then you add 50 to it. That means 4 banat labun and 1 hiqqa. Okay, what about 180? How will you evaluate the required amount for 180? Required type. Check any multiples of 40 and 50. How will you reach the number 180? See, if you get 2 multiples of 50 makes it 100, and then 40 makes it 180. So that means 2 banat labun and 2 hiqqas. Is that clear? Two hiqqas means it covers 100 camels, and 2 banat labun, they will cover 80 camels. This will make it 180. واضح هذا؟
Okay, Sheikh, like so 180 it was like 50, that is 100, then 40.
Absolutely.
This is how we like this.
Absolutely. How will you make it 190?
This will be like 50, then
40. So all the multiples of 10, you have some kind of a solution for them, right? All multiples of 10. If it's 130, then 40 plus 50. 140, you can have, for example, 50 plus 40. 150, you can have 50. 160, 40, and 40 again. 170, you can have 40, and then 50, and then 180 again. So all the multiples of 10 after 120, you can manage them through 1 hiqqa or through bint labun. That's clear, inshallah?
Yes, Sheikh. Inshallah, I'll just go through it once again. The recording.
Inshallah. I think it's a little confusing because of the numbers here. And if you write them down and in the form of numbers instead of the words, that will be easier. Inshallah, نقف هنا. We'll stop here and we'll start off again from the next مسألة in the next درس بإذن الله تعالى. نكتفي بهذا القدر. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.